All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be breaking down the first slate of the year, the 2-game slate on Tuesday. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm going to start off with a quick game preview of the two games that we have. Game total wise, both the games are going to be right around a normal game total. 227 is going to be the first game. The second game is going to be 225.5. But really, where we could potentially get some edges when looking at how Vegas expects this game to go is in the 7.5 point spread in favor of the Thunder. That could lead to the starters, if this game ends up being a potential blowout, maybe not getting as many minutes as they're projected to get or expected to get. A lot of people are probably going to be excited to bet on a lot of overs for opening night. I am too. Stars tend to do a little bit better on these not action-packed, but more attention to the slate on a Tuesday first opening night. So I tend to want to bet on their overs specifically. But this does make the slate a little bit interesting. And one of my favorite bets, and let's just get into that, or a better way to phrase that, one of my favorite players to bet on is actually going to be SGA in this game. So we did get news that Jalen Williams is going to be out here for the OKC Thunder. Also, guard Isaiah Joe's out, if that makes any difference to you guys. But last year, guys, just looking at the per 36 production for SGA with Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe off the court, SGA averaged 38.4 points, and so decent edge there if you want to bet on his points. Don't like the fact that Vegas is telling us, only it's a 50.2% likelihood for the under to get but I don't like the fact that they're telling us to bet the under. Not a terrible bet there. From there, his rebounds, he did average 6.3 rebounds per 36, 7.8 assists. So these numbers are all too low, but it's going to be really his fantasy score where I think we're getting a decent edge here, guys. So he averaged 62.2 points per 36 with Jalen Williams and Isaiah Joe off the court last year. Worth noting, he did have a 37% usage rate as well. The projection data likes the over. The average sportsbook line is giving it closer to 51.3. I mean, not terrible. The under is we're being told to bet the under based off of Vegas. I'm kind of okay with that for the opening night to bet on his over. But again, maybe the minutes end up being wrong. And I'll show you guys his DFS projections as well. We do have him projected to get 35 minutes. So that should end up being pretty close there. DFS-wise, though, this is DraftKings scoring. Only projected to get 50 there using DraftKings scoring. So then another player in this game that actually does benefit a decent amount, and we really have to get the minutes right here, is going to be Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, an interesting thing with the Houston Rockets is they're running out multiple bigs in this game. They're going to be starting Steven Adams, Jabari Smith Jr., and also obviously Alfred Sengun. And so that could lead to Isaiah Hartenstein getting a little bit more run. Hartenstein on the year last year ended up really benefiting as well with Jalen Williams off the court. He averaged 2.8 more points per 36 with Jalen Williams off the court, 1.1 more rebounds per 36 with Jalen Williams off the court, for him to average 17 points per 36. I'll show you guys in a second. He's projected to get right around 30 minutes, so not 36, but still worth calling that out. I think that'll end up being a decent edge. I think the projection data is going to end up being wrong there. Points and rebounds wise as well. Could easily get to that one. Rebounds wise, he averaged 14.8 points per 36. But I actually think his fantasy score could be the bet that we want to go with the most. So again, per 36 wise, he averaged 46 points per 36 with Jalen Williams off the court. And again, just kind of looking at the DraftKings cheat sheet here, he's projected to get 26 minutes. With the 26 minutes, he's still projected to get right around 31 for his fantasy points. So I think that ends up being a good edge for us here in general. Hopefully he doesn't get in foul trouble. That's always the worry, especially when you're going against multiple bigs. 26 minutes, so we'll take that. We do worry about the blowout, right? That's the biggest worry there. And so the next player that I'm going to tell you guys to bet on would benefit if the game was a blowout. Reed Shepherd. So he's projected to get 18 minutes in this game, guys. DraftKings wise, again, about 8.6 points, fantasy points in this game. The best bet that we currently have on the board is actually Reed Shepherd to get under 19 for his fantasy score. And what's interesting about that is if we just were to use the projections that PrizePicks is presenting right now, it wouldn't add up to over 19. It's actually, I think it was like 16.8. It was kind of tough to calculate because not likely to get a block. He is, at 1.5 turnovers. So that ends up being a little bit skewed there because you're not really going to do like a full block, obviously, and you're not going to do 1.5 steals. So he could get a steal. That ends up being 3 points. Could be negated if he gets like 2 turnovers. And so overall, though, I like that just with using their data, we're being told to bet on the under as well. And then from there, guys, let's just take a peek at some other prop bets that we are potentially getting for the Rockets. Kevin Durant to get over 8.5 rebounds and assists has a 53.3% likelihood to hit. This is a bet that's available on PrizePicks and Underdog and Pick 6 if you guys all play there. I actually don't mind it. It is his first game. I could see him trying to default to other players and facilitate a little bit more. Also could see the exact opposite where he's just shooting the basketball a bunch. I think it's going to be one or the other. If you think it's going to be a game in which he's not shooting it a bunch, then his under 37 for his fantasy score would be a good bet. If you do think it's going to be more of him facilitating, but you also think he's going to score a little bit, just bet on his over 8.5 rebounds. So it's not a terrible route to go. Jabari Smith Jr. to get over 6 rebounds. Don't necessarily love it, but that has a 52.6% likely to hit. And then from there, we don't really need to go too crazy. Steven Adams is getting the start at center. We do know OKC runs out Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein a decent amount. Maybe ends up getting a little bit more run. He is projected to get around 18 minutes in this game. Clint Capella also projected to get right around 18 minutes in this game. So nothing too crazy there. I don't think we need to bet on that. And then just as an FYI for OKC here, guys, nothing too crazy bets-wise as well. For the PrizePicks optimizer, going to be the same for Pick 6 and Underdog, at least for this slate. Nothing too crazy there. Gas and Wallace probably will get a little bit more run. That line ends up being correct, though, when you look at the per 36 production with Jalen Williams and, again, Isaiah Joe off the court. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the Lakers. So the DeAndre Ayton prop bets are, again, on the rise. So I'll be so mad if he doesn't get over 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists, which is what his original line was at. We had him at 8.5 rebounds. I called that out on last week's Taco Tuesday video for you guys on PrizePicks. All of his stuff is bumped up, okay? So, heck, he's at 24.5 points and rebounds now. I'm not going to bet on him anymore because I've already gotten a decent amount of edges. If you wanted to bet on him at this point, you probably would be best off betting on his over fantasy score, but I don't think we need to do that. I do want to call it Luka Doncic. He is someone that should benefit a bunch with, obviously, LeBron James off the court. So, guys, last year, Luka Doncic with LeBron James off the court and him on the court, you got to remember they made this trade at the, last year. It's not the best math because it is a different lineup and whatnot, but it is worth looking at. So, averaged 37.3 points, 9.7 rebounds, 8.8 assists. And overall, guys, 26 shot attempts, 13 3-ball attempts, which is crazy, 42% usage rate, and 64 fantasy points per 36 with him off the court. And I like the over here. I like the fact that Vegas is telling us to slightly bet the over. I like the fact that Underdog has his line slightly over. I don't like the fact that the projection data doesn't like the over, but oh well, I think this ends up being a good over bet here. I think this ends up being a decent spot here. This is a game that is a 2.5 point spread as well, so it is expected to stay close. Now, again, if let's say you guys don't want to bet on his over fantasy score, Luka Doncic did again average 37.3 points per 36 with LeBron James off the court last year. And I do want to call out here, guys, that we did get kind of a true tune-up game from the Lakers. At least that's how it was reported, that this would be a lot of what opening night would look like for them in their last preseason game. Okay, so I do think it's worth looking at. Luka and Reeves probably going to get like 2 or 3 more minutes than that. Aiden probably will get around 30 minutes. Hachimura, I'm a little bit suspect about the 30 minutes that he got. Do want to call out that with Hachimura, nothing else stat-wise. It was just a bunch of points, 18 points for him. But in regards to who we're going to be betting on in this game, I do think it's Luka. I do think it's Reeves. And it was nice to see that Luka in that game, 30 points, 9 assists. He would have got his over fantasy score in that game. Reeves, guys, if you want to bet on his over, I'm kind of encouraged by the fact that he was 0 for 7, which sounds weird to say, but the fact that he was that cold and still shot a 3-ball 7 times, obviously that's just an off night, 3 for 15 on the night. That's encouraging, and that aligns with his production with LeBron off the court last year. And I do want to call out the minutes for Marcus Smart. Ended up playing 23 minutes in that game, 11 shot attempts. I do think he's going to be someone we could potentially look at, especially in this game where they're going to need him for defense, maybe on SGA. Sorry, not SGA, Curry. But that's something where, I don't know, if we're getting his defensive rebounds at 1.5, maybe we do that instead. From there, bigs-wise, I don't really know what to expect other than it to be a little bit random, other than Aiden. I expect Aiden to get the minutes that he got. Now, as I get into Austin Reeves, I do want to call it that his lines, other than the fantasy score lines, to me do seem to be correct. Again, just kind of based off of the production with LeBron off the court, expected usage and everything. Whereas all the other players I kind of mentioned, there are some other stats that you could potentially get into with bets wise. If you're betting on Reeves, I would suggest just doing the fantasy score prop bet. But I will go through the data. So, guys, per 36, with LeBron off the court, averaged 22.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, 5.6 assists. So, again, all those lines are basically correct. No big edges when we look at that. 12.5 shot attempts, so nothing too crazy there as well. And about 7 3 balls per 36 with LeBron off the court. Now, his fantasy score, he did average 40 fantasy points per 36 with LeBron off the court. And so that's really the only edge that we get there. I don't like it as much as the other ones that I mentioned, but it's also not terrible. Could end up being an okay spot for you. Now from there, guys, let's go ahead and get into the Golden State Warriors. So I mentioned to you guys in the last video that I did that I like Jimmy Butler to get over his assist of 5.5. And I still think that ends up being a good bet, but that's not a bet that you would place on PrizePicks or Underdog now. It has a 53.6% likelihood for the under to hit. This would end up being a bet that if you want to get to it, you could end up betting the over on like Sleeper or something like that, where you're going to get rewarded for taking a bet that has the under more likely to hit. So you'd want to bet the over there. And again, that was just rooted in his production last year, averaging closer to 6.5, and it's going to be a close game as well. And that was with the trade there. From there, I don't necessarily see any bets that we need to get to. They did adjust Draymond Green's assist as well down a little bit. Again, he's someone you could still bet on the over here. I actually like this bet a little bit more. Probably going to end up being a push. He averaged basically the same as well last year, which was about 6 assists as well with the Jimmy Butler trade. So not terrible. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day here for this slate. So 4 slip bet here, just recapping the bets that I mentioned. I know people don't really like the fantasy score prop bets if they're not playing on PrizePicks or Underdog. I mentioned a bunch of bets that you could do. So like SGA and Luka, you probably would just be doing their over points. I did include Luka over points here for you guys there. If you guys want to bet on his over fantasy score, you can do that as well. For Isaiah Hartenstein, you could just do like points and rebounds as a bet, or points or rebounds. Not a terrible route to go. He just should be involved. He's projected at 26 minutes. Like that there. Again, the worry with that game is if it ends up being a little bit of a blowout. And then Reed Shepherd as well. If the game ends up being a blowout where the backups get a little bit more run, then Reed Shepherd could easily get his over there as well. He's someone that can get hot shooting the basketball as well. And so that's a little bit of a worry. But on the flip side, that is, if he's not shooting the basketball well, then the under should hit pretty easily there. But that's going to do it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys like access to any of the tools that you saw throughout this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. You guys can get access to all the tools available on the website, all of them, not just the NBA tools, for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.